and then we'll be back to Gary's games minus Gary equals games. All right. So, yes, Mr. Ron Shaw has pointed out one of my facial tics, one of my tendencies as an actor. Fuck you, dude. And yeah, you guys are gonna start like judging it. I think that's how it works. How's it work? Hold on. All right, I'll go ahead and narrate this post. Jeff, no peeking at the comments. The secret eyebrows are stored there. You have been warned. Glares at you super judgmentally. Now that is out of the way, this is a new poll substituting for what would have been the next poll. This is neither the troll poll nor the classic poll. This is the poll where Jeff will be performing the 3 highest voted scenes from SBTL audiobooks. We ask you guys to post your favorite scene to be voted on for Jeff to perform solo. But wait, there's a twist! In the comments, we will also be discussing how Jeff's eyebrows will be during the scene. Please visit the comment section where you will find a representation of each of the polls and guess how his eyebrows will react during the scene. If that scene were among the top 3, will they be concerned? Will they be bizarre? Will they be confused as fuck? Only you can guess and find out. Did we even get guesses? I don't know. I don't even know. If you want a scene added to this poll, please add to the listing to the voting board and then comment on the scene so that people can then begin to guess about the eyebrows by replying to the scene's comment. Okay. So what do we got, guys? What do we got? Number 1, Boxy summoning Leosolra in Everybody Loves Large Chests, number 3. Okay. That's going to be fucking hard, guys. That's going to be... You are assholes. Okay. Number 2 is Dungeon Crawler Carl Goblin Boss scene. And that's got to be the book 1, I'm pretty sure. I can't think of any other goblin scenes than book 1. And then Parley with the Sandman after Armageddon Day, Everybody Loves Large Chests, number 6. Parlay with the Sandman. Okay, that's when the Sandman's sitting on Snack, like as a stool, I think. Yeah. Okay. So wait, am I supposed to not look at the comments, not look at what people's eyebrow guesses are?
I don't think so. I think that you're supposed to just read the scenes.
Okay, I'm supposed to.
And then people will
do
discuss.
The scenes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And then maybe we read the comments
discuss
after.
Your eyebrows.
People.
Yeah.
All right. Pay close attention to what my face is doing. I gotta find book 3. Okay,
Don't blink.
Here's the thing. I don't think anyone's gonna be that disappointed if I don't do number 3 there, because both of these scenes are gonna be kind of long, and fuck, this Leosolra thing is gonna mess me up. It's gonna mess me up. So, hardy har, Bell Dingy. All right, Vortina, Volume 3. Problem with this is I don't know exactly what chapter it is. So, Leosolra. At least I know how to spell the damn thing. Here it is. Liusolra. Anybody, so this scene killed it with people because of the song, right? And I don't know how, like, I didn't even know about the meme of this song when I narrated this. So I had to look it up, and I had to learn the shit out of this song. So I at least I know the melody. All right, tack. That's not it. It is Volume 3, is it not?
That's
All
what
right.
the option in the poll says.
All right. Making sure everything was in order, Boxy thought back to what it had learned regarding Leosolra's race. Some subspecies of stalkers were rumored to quite literally feast on mana, so there was a chance that she might try to suck the magic from any powerful enchanted gear she came across. The creature naturally wanted to avoid losing the things that it had gained from its most recent dungeon expedition, so it took measures to safeguard its belongings. A private pocket dimension seemed like a good enough hiding spot, so it opened its storage to stow Void Caller inside for safekeeping. It then removed a few sets of armor in order to make room for Fizzy. While the left hand of the Forsaken Sentinel was technically part of her body, it was still an artifact-grade magic item, and as such might tickle Leosolra's fancy. And since it couldn't be removed, that meant that the golem herself had to go inside its storage, much to her disappointment. She was loath to return to the claustrophobic space, plus she was curious as to what the actual ritual would look like. Still, spending some time in boxy storage was infinitely preferable to having her left arm eaten, so she begrudgingly crawled inside the swirling portal. Its preparations complete, the elf-shaped monster stood in the center of the formation, gripping an iron dagger in each hand. It cleared its throat as it got ready to perform the actual ceremony. It rested its arms against its sides and reversed the grip on its weapons so that they were pointing backwards, then began to bounce lightly in place using only its ankles and knees, causing its entire body to move up and down to some unheard rhythm. Once it was moving at about 2 or 3 bounces per second, it began to shake its hips in an exaggerated manner. They swayed left and right in time with its bounces, much to Cora's amusement. Boxy lifted its arms over its head, pressing the hilts of its daggers against the top of its skull so that the blades pointed upwards. It's twisted its wrists slightly to tilt the weapons forward and back like sharp rabbit ears that bobbed and swayed in time with its movements. The shapeshifter opened its mouth and began to chant. Mobiale quat e dolermat, nulla acto enim non fansat, ron sesel, portos cora fore alet. The strange words took on an oddly melodic tone, almost like singing. A strangely upbeat and energetic song, too, entirely mismatched with its grim purpose. Nectem felis magna wa-a-a, ovica eraf helftam la-a-la, yo sol mi, til du la melody. Crouching smoothly, Boxy leaned forward and stretched its arms out. Its iron daggers easily pierced the top of the first dwarf's skull, relieving him of his life in an instant. The weapons were immediately withdrawn as the shapeshifter elf spun with a little pirouette, turning to face the sigil opposite the first sacrifice before resuming its bounce-assisted hip swing. Dan salmelos, clapper in the hand, and yours on yours, to us in del tansten, miss laulai, misa in the clansen, liknari harry de caramel tansen. The purplish paint on the ground pulsed with a soft pink light that flashed for a split second every time Boxy finished a downward motion. A strange mist gathered over the arcane sigil, the intensifying flashes from below casting a vaguely humanoid shadow within the off-white vapor cloud. Det blir en sensation verflatstas, präster kom la slippa las, kom igen, nu tar vi stegen om igen. A steady thumping noise came from below, as if accompanying the strange song and dance. The figure in the mist became more and more defined into a solid, feminine shape, which mirrored the creature's bizarre movements. Nectem felis magna wa-a-a, ovica era helftan la-la-la, yo sol mi, til du la melody. Boxy repeated the second verse, spinning to pierce the second dwarf's skull. It pirouetted once again, turning to face the next sigil. Don salmelos, clapper in the hand, and yours and leros, turas in del dansten, mis laulai, misa in the clansen, liknari harry den caramel tansen. The odd mist had by now spread over the entire rooftop, obscuring the view of the town around it. A second feminine figure appeared, also mimicking the shapeshifter's movements. Lights went on in multiple houses as the locals finally began to notice the ritual taking place. Fearing that the guards might try to intervene, Boxy gave a curt mental order to Arms and Snack to block the stairs to buy it time. Oh, shit. Curabatur matis demaratum, quisque id pillin vestibilum. Your portas, nulla vitae off lactos. Oh man, I forgot how that melody goes. Sorry guys. Its voice had been steadily rising in pitch the whole time, and by now it sounded like something one would expect to hear out of a chipmunk. The strange colors flashing within the fog became brighter and more varied as it continued. Nectem felis magna wa-a-a, ovica era helflam la-la-la, yo sol mi, til du la melody. The third and last dwarf's life was severed fluidly as Boxy turned to the final sigil. Dans allmellos, klapper ena handen, yours and allures. Toros in the dance, den med slowly, misa in the cleansen, liknar I höjde caramel. There were now 3 shadowy backup dancers performing the otherworldly song and dance. Boxy moved relentlessly, shouting, ooh, 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 ah, 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 every now and then. Sounds of combat erupted from below as its familiars engaged the boot-split guards. People on the surrounding rooftops fired arrows and magic into the dense fog, but they couldn't even see what they were aiming at, and the projectiles were swallowed by the glowing miasma surrounding the warlock. The mimic refused to allow any of this to distract it and kept performing its part resolutely as the noise intensified. The 3 corpses deteriorated rapidly until all that was left of them were bleached bones, at which point both the thumping and the light show suddenly subsided. Boxy took its cue, standing perfectly still with the blood-soaked daggers crossed in front of its face. However, judging by the shadowy dancers continuing to bounce, the ritual wasn't over quite yet. Fuck, I don't remember this part. Sedorner dollar erat qui spella sete dignissimet. Fuck. I don't know that one. Its voice rose to the heavens as its MP began to decrease. The simple daggers glowed a blindingly bright blue, the color spreading through the mist like ink through water. The town's defenders had managed to fight through its familiars in the meantime, forcing them to fall back to the roof as they stalled for time. The mortals would follow after them any second now, but they would be too late, to stop what was about to happen. Presentiltricis Leosolra! Boxy shouted the final part of the incantation, flinging the daggers upward with all its might. They exploded in a blinding flash of light with a noise like a thunderclap. Wasting no time, Boxy leapt off the side of the building, landing on the cobblestone street. It attempted to execute a forward roll to redirect its momentum, but slipped on the wet ice that had begun to melt in the morning sun and fell flat on its back. Wait, what? Okay, and we'll stop it there. Oh, man.
That was incredible.
Thank you.
I never knew I needed something in my life until I saw it,
Yeah.
and that is that.
Yes. It's a terrible, awesome song. So, if you ever want to look it up, Caramel Dancin'. And it's, what is it? I can't remember what language it is actually. Don't do unnecessary things, Jeff, Gary Simmons says. All right. And the second thing I will do is that goblin scene from Dungeon Crawler Carl. And I like I said, I'll skip 3 because I've already done one Everybody Loves Large Chest thing, and I think people would like to move on. So, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Does anyone remember, I think it may be Swedish. Does anyone remember what chapter the goblins are in? The goblin boss fight. It blew when it hit the ground. Crackling of fire. Nope. Let's see. Explain these bosses to me. Nope. It's going to be further in. Chapter 20. That's not it. Anybody? Frank and Maggie found my trap. I don't think that's it. I think it's probably further. Snagging, I spent some time grabbing all the weight equipment. Okay, I think they kill him before. Okay, part 2. Sorry guys, I'm looking chapter by chapter here. If anyone can please tell me what chapter we're looking for. Quadrant with the stairwell. The 2 biggest puddle jumper spell. No. Crack Heron. Okay, I feel like maybe we're too far now. God damn it. Guys, I need help. I need help from you guys. Goblin Workshop. Okay, here we go. Okay, here goes. All right, so I'll just do all of chapter 17. All right. And did we have any eyebrow predictions that were vindicated? I'm like resentfully trying to keep control of my eyebrows.
The leading prediction was that your right eyebrow was going to go absolutely nuts, and it did.
It did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fuck you guys. My inventory had about 10 new tabs by the time we were done clearing out the goblin workshop. I took another 5 piles of coal. We looted tons of tools, from shovels to wrenches to hammers. Most of them were much too small to use as weapons, but I would examine them all later to make sure. We had engineering supplies, coils and coils of wick, multiple types of explosives, about 50 gallons of various alchemical liquids, and a pile of those black discs they used for chopper tires. I even took all the tables I could lift. By the time we were done, all that was left were some of the bigger tables, the giant steam engine, a greatly reduced pile of coal, and a set of barrels with XXX on them, all placed neatly on the cart and tied down with a length of rope. I'd managed to take almost a ton of the black powder, but it required me using the discarded leather sacks they had lying around. This stuff was distinctly the old-school, coarse black powder, not the more refined, smokeless powder used in modern firearms. I wasn't quite strong enough to lift the barrels until they were less than half full. But when they did get that empty, I didn't put them in my inventory. Instead, I lifted the barrels and placed them on the cart. We placed the cart in front of the door to the boss room. On top of the powder, I placed shovelfuls of nuts and bolts and other metal odds and ends. Then I placed the tops back on the barrels before an errant spark from the still-humming steam engine blew us all to hell. Donut directed the action from the seat of her sidecar. I would put the chopper into my inventory before we proceeded.
Do you think Rory and Lorelei will be mad at me?
Donut asked as we prepared the trigger. Unlike last time, I wasn't going to use plain goblin dynamite, which was inherently unstable. I found a blob of C4-like explosive called hobgoblin pus that was detonated with an actual trigger. There was only a small amount of the material, but the description said it caused a big explosion. I had the sense that it was valuable, probably the real prize of this room. I was going to use it all. Next to the hobgoblin pus was a set of magical triggers. There were only 3 of the mechanisms, and I had to waste one in order to test it, to see how they worked. The triggers were both genius and foolproof. You broke the tip off of the mechanism, which looked like a stick of underarm deodorant. You stuck the broken-off part into the explosive, and you pressed the button to set it off. Easy. The detonators were single-use, but you could break off up to 10 pieces for each stick, so you could simultaneously blow 10 different bombs. It had a 5-second countdown after you pressed the button. The description said the trigger had a range of about 10 kilometers. Will they be mad? Probably. But Rory doesn't seem like this boss guy. Doesn't seem to like this boss guy too much, so who knows? I hope we never find out.
Do you think this is enough?
Donut asked, looking over the 4 barrels.
I feel as if it's not enough.
I shrugged. Black powder isn't really meant for blowing stuff up. But it's good at throwing metal. If he's in there and out in the open, we'll turn this guy into a pincushion for sure. But I doubt the explosion itself is going to be bigger than when that murder dozer blew up. Either way, if this doesn't kill him, more probably wouldn't either. The plan was a more refined version of what we had done with the Hoarder. From what I could see, the room that this war chieftain occupied was identical in size and shape to the one from the last boss battle. This was still the first floor, after all, so I doubted the guy was that powerful. We were going to open the door, push the cart in, close the door, run until we had several walls between us, and hit the trigger. If we killed the boss, we'd get a notification and a star by our names. If we didn't, we'd keep running. We'd pull out the chopper and put some distance between us and the whole neighborhood and forget this ever happened. I'd put a hunk of the hobgoblin pus in each barrel, and I'd added the last of it to the top of the first barrel. I placed the detonator into the pus, sticking half out of it. I tried to make it look obvious, but not overly obvious. If the goblin chieftain had time to react, he'd hopefully spend his last moments digging the detonator out of this chunk of explosive. not realizing we had 4 more ready to go buried in each of the barrels. It was a chicken shit way to do it, but I didn't care. Not when one got locked in the room with the boss otherwise. "You ready, Princess?" I asked. I stood directly behind the cart, poised to shove. I'd pulled it back a good 10 feet, just enough to give me momentum. Donut would open the door using her menu, eyeball the room to make sure the path was clear, tell me to go, then slam the door after I heaved. Hopefully, the floor would be flat enough for the cart to travel a good distance.
Ready? I'm opening the door now.
From my vantage, I couldn't see into the room, but I heard the heavy creak of the door yawning open.
Do it!
I kicked my legs, and I crashed into the cart like it was a football sled. I'd greased the wheels, and the heavy cart moved quickly and easily. I shoved with all my might and watched the cart rocket into the room as the large door slammed. Donut had already turned and was bolting for the exit on the opposite side of the room. I scrambled up and followed. We'd practiced this part. We turned 3 times, making sure we were out of any line of direct blast. I didn't want to wait too long, but we had to put a few large rooms between us in case there was a shock wave that needed to be dispersed. We stopped at the prearranged spot, and I leaned against the wall, my heart thrashing. I pulled the detonator trigger from my inventory. "Did you see him? Was there a giant goblin in there?" I asked. Donut heaved for a breath.
Yes, a huge, ugly goblin. My word, I do not like running. He was sitting down, reading a book. Blow it good.
I jammed the button.
Whew. There sure were a lot of babies in there, too.
Donut said in the last moment before the blast. And that's it.
Blown up babies.
Kaboom.
Love blown up babies. All right, so what did my eyebrows do this time?
Lots of eyebrow pinching. Lots of eyebrow pinching.
Like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's my Carl posture.
Yeah. And then there's just like a ton of movement when you switch over to Donut. Like it's erratic and chaotic and just a lot of eyebrows.
Fuck you. I mean, that's all. You know. Fuck you
I'm
guys.
just commenting on what the people see.
Hey, look, it's not
I'm
your
just
fault.
a messenger.
It's not your fault. But, fuck you.
That's fine.
All right, well, thank you guys for putting that poll together. For Ron Shaw for pointing out my ridiculous eyebrows, and yeah, I had a lot of fun with those. Oh man, I really loved narrating those parts in those books. So yeah. All right, so are we ready for some Gary's Games minus Gary equals games?